not seeing the question from my side.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I will share my screen right now
yeah.
so that you can see the questions. Let's see. Let's see. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Can you see now?
You keep scrolling.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. These are the questions here.
Okay, so I guess the best we could do is just that you act like the interviewer, just ask the question, and then I'll just be answering it one by one. So rather than me trying to
of
pick the
course. That's
question
what, yeah, of course. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Cool. So let's start with the first one. So tell me about yourself.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sylvester. So my name is James Oguyemi. And then over the past 7 years, I have worked as Scrum Master across multiple organizations, across different fields, and then different domains. These have helped me to also be exposed to different teams that are working on major projects across these organizations. As a Scrum Master, I have served them. And this includes ensuring that all the ceremonies that are in Agile are effectively carried out. One thing I do also is to ensure that they have the understanding of why these ceremonies are held. Because without that understanding, when I'm not there, they don't do it. All right. Also, in these past 7 years, in addition to the basic responsibility of a Scrum Masters, like facilitating ceremonies, helping my teams to remove impediment, also shielding them from external interference from either some team members or from management, I've also done some significant things that I'm proud of. And these include the fact that I've helped my team to increase their productivity for up to about 120% over a period of 3 years. And this we did by increasing the frequency of our backlog refinement. So when I joined this particular organization, I discovered that when the sprint is going on, that is when they are trying to understand the requirement of the software they are building, because the backlog was not effectively refined. So we increased the frequency of the backlog refinement, which gave them a better understanding of the requirements ahead of the development and increased the speed of delivery. In addition to that, I also introduced a column for PO approval on Jira. And what that does for us is it helps us to reduce significantly the cycle time. Cycle time is the amount it takes the team from start to finish of any user story. So when there is higher level of accountability, the product owner knows that if they do not accept the user story, they are holding the team back. And one last thing I also introduce is, in addition to the sprint review that the Scrum recommend for us to showcase our work to the customer, I introduce what we call the user story ongoing demo. With the ongoing demo of the user story, it means that rather than waiting for the 10th day in the development for us to show our work to the product owner, since the product owner is part of the team, as soon as we finish the user story, we show it to the product owner. He looks at it, does it meet the requirement, and it gives us a go ahead. What that does is that rather than us having a pushback from the product owner and the customer on the last day of the sprint, we can get our feedback on time, we can incorporate the feedback, and then eventually that ensures that almost all the time, we almost meet the need of our customer, thereby leading to a satisfied customer and, of course, increasing the bottom line of the organization. Today, even though I'm satisfied with where I am as in my career and the organization, my project is ending, at the end of January. And so I'm looking at an opportunity to move into your organization to leverage on this experience I have, and also to learn from your organization, which is quite known across the world as a leader in the application of Agile for product development.
Awesome. Awesome. Great answer there.
Thank
So
you.
what I notice is that you take the problems, like the key problems that occur in most Scrum projects, and you show solutions for them. And you lay that out with concrete stories, with context, so that somebody, it sounds real and authentic. Okay.
That is right.
Yeah. So all of the most common problems that would occur in a Scrum project, students will need to know them. And so I'm glad that you gave that that answer. Okay, so let's move on to why is the Agile methodology necessary?
All right. So thank you for that question, Mr. Sylvester. So here is a little back-end story, which is the only way you can better understand my answer to this question. So there is no way we can talk about Agile without talking about waterfall. So in waterfall, teams work in silos. Some people are doing analysis. When they are done with analysis, they hand it over to those who will do the development. When they are done with development, they hand it over to those who will do the testing, and so on and so forth. The problem that arises with this is the fact that when people are not collaborating, there is gap. What if the person who is in the fourth phase, for instance, discovers a problem with something that was done in the first phase? The cost of rework becomes a problem. What if the customer changes their mind when our development is already in the fourth or the fifth place? It means that everything that has been done over a couple of weeks or couple of months is a waste. So Agile methodology says, how about we find a way by which we can bridge the gap between these phases? Rather than having groups working independent of one another, how about we have somebody who knows how to do analysis, somebody who knows how to do development, somebody who knows how to do testing, somebody who knows how to do deployment. Let all these people come together within the same team. Then let's do our work in bits and pieces. Let's deliver incrementally, little by little, and iteratively based on the specified time. So we can ask our customer, Mr. Customer, sir, what exactly out of all these things that you want done do you need first? All of us know, for instance, Microsoft Word has almost 2,000 functionality. The question, sir, is how many of us use more than 10% of this functionality? But it was built using waterfall methodology, right? So if it was Agile, we would have asked Bill Gates and his team to say, what exactly does the customer want now, which is what we refer to as the MVP, minimum viable product. And then we can deliver that to the customer. That is a small increment of their requirement. The customer can look at it and tell us, oh, you guys did a good job. Now I want this in addition to what you have done. Or we can as well have the customer say, okay, based on what I've seen, I'm changing my mind. Whatever changes happen within this small period of time, which by the way is called a sprint in Scrum, it will be insignificant compared to what it would have been if it were to be waterfall. So Agile increases collaboration with customer. It ensures that we can deliver value to the customer on time. And it also ensures that we do not build things just for building sake, which increases the overhead, but we only deliver what is of value to the customer, and customer can start reaping the benefit of what they do as soon as possible.
Awesome. Perfect answer there, right there. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. How did you become a Scrum? No, sorry. How does a Scrum Master help the product owner?
All right. So the product owner is a member of the Agile team or the Scrum team. So the Scrum team is made up of 3 basic roles. We have the product owner, we have the Scrum Master, and we have the development team. While I, as the Scrum Master, am the custodian of the process, ensuring that the team is following Scrum in the implementation of their development, The product owner is the custodian of the product, is the voice of the customer. So what I do on a day-to-day basis, using the different ceremonies as a platform for learning, teaching, and coaching, is to ensure that there is clear understanding between what the customer wants, clearly communicated to the development team. Otherwise, there will be a gap, and then eventually the development team might build what does not meet the requirements of the customer. So, for example, during the backlog refinement, which is where the team and the product owner comes together to have an understanding of the work that needs to be done in the nearest future, I ensure that the team are asking the appropriate questions from the product owner on what they will be working on. I ensure that the product owner is giving the right answers based on what the customer is asking of them. And should there be some things that the product owner do not have answers for on the spot, I follow up on the product owner to ensure that they get the answers for the development team before they start. In addition to that, I also help to ensure that the user story is the agile tool that is used to capture the requirement of the customer from the point of view of the customer. I also ensure that this user story meets some specific requirement. For instance, does it meet the 3W requirement? Does it contain the who, the person we are building the user story for, what we are building for them, and why we are building it? This is important because except that is achieved, the team does not have a complete understanding of what they will work on. I also ensure, for instance, that each of the user story have acceptance criteria. Because, for instance, we are playing football and there is no goalpost. How do we know whether we win or not? So I ensure that there is clear acceptance criteria, which is how will the product owner measure at the end of the development whether the team does what the customer wants or not. By having this in place, it helps the product owner to empower the team to build the right product, and it also helps me to ensure that the development team do not waste their efforts on doing what is not expected of them by the customer.
Awesome. So what I noticed there, which is very great, is your use of analogies, because those are the kind of things I'll be teaching them. You wanted to talk about measurement. You want to talk about acceptance criteria. Those are abstract concepts. For somebody to understand you, you need to boil them down with an example or an analogy. And you talked about the goalpost and the goal as a way of measuring that. And then boom, it sticks, and there's an analogy, and there's images in the mind of the person listening to you, and that's how you communicate easily for them to hear. So I like that. Awesome. Also, I'll just go with question number 6. It's like a follow-up questions to why did you become a Scrum Master? So what is the biggest challenge you have faced as a Scrum Master, and how did you handle it?
All right. That is not difficult to find because this sticks with me. I believe this should be about 3 to 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I joined a team that was transitioning from waterfall to agile.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when there is a change, even though change is the only constant thing, we know that there is always resistance. So I got to the team excited to help them to move from a methodology that wasn't working for them to ensuring they embrace a proven mindset that has worked for multiple companies and they've been successful. The only thing I miss, however, is that I think I was aggressive in my approach. I discovered that people were holding back information. I discovered that people weren't collaborating among one another. I discovered that when I asked for reports, they do not give it. Or if they do give it, they are just making up numbers. So what I did was to meet with each individual to understand what is going on. And during my conversation with them, I realized that they do not have an understanding of the need for me to ask for those metrics that I was asking for. So when I asked them, how much will you be able to complete, which is a measure of their capacity, they are trying to inflate that to look good, thinking that I was going to report that value to their managers. So they were trying to make it look as if they are doing more than what they would do. So this gave me an opportunity to understand that, like the guy said, like this guy said in his book, Simon Sinek, he says, start with why. I failed to let them know why. First of all, we are moving from waterfall to agile, number one. And then the changes that follow suit, I failed to let them realize this is what this metrics is for. This is why we are asking you to do this. And as soon as I gathered that information and I realized that was the problem, I called together a workshop. I put together a workshop where, as a leader, one of the things I also learned from it is there was a need for me to admit my own mistakes. So I let them realize, to be honest, I should have done this the other way around. And so I explained to them the need for each of the matrices. And then going forward, they embraced the mindset. And like I told you during my introduction, this is the same team that eventually have their productivity increased by 120% over the course of the 3 years. This experience stuck with me basically because of what I said. I realized what my mistake was as a leader. I was trying to enforce change rather than driving them to embrace it by having the right understanding. And that I never repeated in the course of my career so far.
Awesome. So again, good answer there, great answer, because some of the things I noticed is the fact that you were highlighting the soft skills. In an interview, what they look for is mostly the soft skills like leadership skills and what lessons you learned and things like that. And so in the job description, they'll go as far as listing the kind of skills you need to have: communication skills, team building, leadership, and so on. So you talked about communication, you talked about organizing a workshop, you talked about your mistakes and how you learn from it. You talked about the difference between enforcing and letting somebody embrace the change. You talked about resistance and all of that. So there was a lot of context there. And there was also the fact that when you came to the team, you were aggressive and you wanted to you were so enthusiastic, you were so excited, and you wanted to make things happen. And in the course of that, as somebody who had no experience at the time, you learn from that, and now you are more experienced. Because what they are looking for is you just said what they were already suspecting, that okay, maybe you might be excited and you face this problem. So you showed them the problem you face with people. When it comes to people skills, you demonstrated your people skills by going and talk to each other individually. So those are the kind of things that score a lot of points in an interview, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So again, just to remind you of what we're trying to do here. So I'll take all of these answers, including Julius' answer, and I'll create a template. And people have to come with their own stories and fit them in this template at specific points in the template. And it has to be in a structure that delivers and convinces the hiring manager this is the right candidate. So they will not be like copying your exact answers, but I'll be explaining to them what you were actually doing in your answers, so that it doesn't just seem like they're just listening. They will actually see the psychology behind the answers. When they understand the framework of the answers, and that they can contextualize, take these things and make them their own and insert their own stories. They can even, it doesn't, like what I understand from Scrum is that Scrum is actually an experience that you can apply in every other part of your life. So if you've never worked in a Scrum project, think about a time where you guys had an association and you were trying to organize the end of your party. What were the things that, if you were using Waterfall, would make that project not to go well? If you're using Agile, it will make it to go well. And take that and pretend as if it's a Scrum project and use that story as your own, so that you don't have to memorize things. You have to be confident because there has to be some kind of flow when you're speaking. Yeah. So I'm going to teach them that. I'm going to say, okay, take this story, take this person. Peter was involved. Just call the same name of the person who was involved, but you can just say they were working in a company called X.
Yeah.
but let it feel your own, so that when you speak, you will speak from the heart, because you will not have to be making up things and mumbling. Because when you mumble, they'll know that you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Because I know in the resume, they will put that they have like 7 years experience.
Yeah.
And so you have to speak like somebody who has 7 years experience. And the
Right.
only way you do that is for the delivery to flow.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let's move on here. So what are some of the most common daily stand-up anti-patterns that you've observed?
Right. Well, because daily stand-up happens every day, the first thing I see as anti-pattern is the fact that people do not really see the need for it. And as a result of that, they are kind of nonchalant. Think about it. In a daily stand-up, we ask 3 questions almost every day. What did you do the day before? What are you going to do today? And what is the problem you are facing? So I have people come to a daily stand-up and they are scratching their head. What exactly did I do yesterday? What they're going to do today, they seem to have it handy, but sometimes they find it difficult to remember what they did the day before. I recall that for one of the team, one of the things we agree is as little having a post-it, each member, on your board, on your desk, so that by the time you are leaving for home the day before, just have a little recap of what you did that day. If you think to yourself, why did I get paid today? Just summarize it. And as a team, we agree on doing that. And subsequently, we come to our daily stand-up, each person with his own post-it, and they are there having it handy what they did and what they're going to do. Another anti-pattern is a Scrum team is self-organizing. As a team, we do not have a controller within the team. We all brainstorm, we all collaborate, we all agree on what we want to do, and then people should volunteer to say, this is what I would do. What I do see as anti-pattern in daily stand-up is somebody trying to be bossy. So when Jennifer is explaining what she did yesterday, I could sometimes have Peter speak up and say, but why did you not finish that? Or what is holding you back? That is an anti-pattern. So what I always do is, first of all, to let them understand all of us on the team, we are equal. That's number one. Number two, our goal is a collective goal, and our result is a collective result. So if you have a concern about what one person is doing or one person is not doing, you should raise it in love as a partner, not as a competitor. And finally, another anti-pattern is daily stand-up extending beyond the 15 minutes that was recommended. I do have a team that I have some of my team members in India. And because of the time difference, they often want to use the daily stand-up as a catch-up session, because by the time we are doing daily stand-up here by 9 a.m., India is already around 8 p.m. or thereabout in the evening. So because they will be soon leaving for home, they want to use the stand-up as a catch-up. So rather than just going straight to what was done the day before, what they're going to do today, and the problem they're facing, they start giving like a report of what they did. And what I make them to realize, first of all, from my side as a Scrum Master, I create another 15-minute session in addition to the 15 minutes for the daily stand-up, which we clearly know as a team, there is parking lot, or what we call after Scrum. So for the first 15 minutes of daily stand-up, all of us should talk about those 3 things. What did you do the day before? What you're going to do today? And the problem you're facing. And then for affected individual, I have a report or I have an issue that I want to talk to Sylvester about, then we do not need to keep everybody in the team. Only those affected stays back for the extra 15 minutes. That makes the meeting productive because we have a goal that we address within the first 15 minutes. And also it makes the team members productive because people that need not to stay for the additional discussion do not have to stay.
Awesome. So just for clarity, in the after Scrum 15 minutes, are you like fixing all the things that went wrong in the big meeting?
Okay, no. So as many. So what I do basically is within that 15 minutes, I try to get high level information about the impediment. I try to have an understanding of what the person has done so far so that I will know where to continue from, right?
Oh, okay.
And then I meet individuals beyond the scope of 15 minutes if there is need to be able to resolve the impediment.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so again, going back to your answer, it was great because you listed the main stand-ups, and it sounded like real things that can impair the project and real things that can avoid agile from being implemented. So that was also good. I remember you talked about the people attacking each other in public, and then making sure that you call out those people there, and then remind them that, hey, we are a family, we are a group, we are a team. Yeah. So and I also like the fact that you called names. So your answer was very specific. Again, it's very normal because you're already doing these things. But for somebody, for somebody who is not doing these things, we need to teach them the techniques where they can create a scenario in their mind as if they are doing these things, and then show them how to deliver these things without sounding very experienced.
Yeah.
So that is what I'm gonna do with them, and then I'm gonna show them how to structure things out. Okay, awesome. Let's see. So let's go to question number 7. You are in the middle of a sprint and suddenly the product owner comes up with new requirements. What will you do?
This is something that happens to every Scrum Master, especially when the team is immature. All right. There are always 3 approaches that I use to handling this. The first thing is that I level set expectation with everybody on the team. I ensure that the product owner understands the fact that a sprint is a fixed duration of time where we develop what the customer wants for that time. So, first of all, what I focus on is to prevent an occurrence of this issue. And how do I do that? I make sure that by the time we are doing a backlog refinement, I ensure that the product owner have a clear priority from the customer, because if he or she is able to get the right priority, the chances that they shouldn't change that priority in 2 weeks. Also, when we are doing our sprint planning, I remind the product owner to say, for the next 2 weeks, you are telling us these are the things that we will be working on. But sometimes this is agile. The idea behind agile is to embrace change. If this occurs, or when this actually did occur, because it does occur, what I do is, first approach, I want to sit the product owner down and say, this is a 2 weeks duration. My team are already halfway gone. Can we keep this till the end of the sprint? That's the first option. If he says no, again, is the voice of the customer, is the one who knows what the customer really wants. So if he says no, then no problem. But again, the development team, they are the owner of the sprint backlog. The sprint backlog is what they are working on within this sprint. So I organize a session, quick session. It could be after the daily stand-up, for the team and the product owner to dialogue. We already have a commitment. You are bringing something to add to our plate. The team decides how much work they do. So I ask my team, are you able to take this in addition to what you are doing without affecting the scope of this sprint? Sometimes they do say yes. Sometimes they say no. If they say yes, everybody is happy. The product owner is happy. The team is happy. I am happy. However, there are also instances where they do say no, when they know that clearly their capacity cannot accommodate for it. In that instance, the third option steps in. I ask the product owner, now that you are bringing this that cannot wait till the end of the 2 weeks, it means this is of a higher priority than something else we are already having in the backlog. So let's do a trade-off. What do you want them to drop for you to have this? This has always worked. Either the first option of saying no for the time being, or the second option of the team embracing it and say, okay, we'll get it done. or the third option of doing a trade-off. In the end, we are working towards ensuring that we give the customer what the customer wants now.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say that's what they want now, then we do it.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome answer. Nothing to add there. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
So let's go here. So number 8, what are the top 3 characteristics you possess that has made you a successful Scrum Master?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that question. So knowledge is key. One thing I've discovered in the field so far, especially going back to the greatest challenge I faced in the industry, was the fact that it is important for you to have the knowledge of Agile. The team members look up to me as the master. By the way, the title Scrum Master is not just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
As a master, it means I should master the concept. I should know what Agile is all about, which I do. So I have depth of knowledge about the subject. And so whenever my team or even the organization have ambiguities or concerns, I'm able to teach. If it is a new team with zero knowledge, I'm able to coach if they're already on the journey, or sometimes I'm able to mentor depending on the phase they are. Secondly is I'm accessible, all right? The team are experts who are focused technically on delivering technical excellence, product with quality to the team. But sometimes they have impediment that they don't want to be distracted by. I make an open door policy for my team to know that whenever you have any issue, even though Scrum put it there that the daily stand-up is a platform where the team talks about their impediment, my team knows that whenever they have impediment, they can reach out to me for me to. And one thing I do, because they don't have impediments often, I make sure that when they do have impediment, I go all the way out to ensure that the impediment is resolved as soon as possible. And the final thing is I'm an excellent communicator, not only in talking, but in listening. And I even do hard. There are things that are not said that as a good communicator, I'm able to capture. I have been in a retrospective session that I discovered there was somebody who is always very active, making contributions, but consecutively, multiple retrospective in and out, this person was not contributing. And I was wondering, what is going on? So I reached out to this person, and I found out that there was a separate meeting they did, which was a technical review of their code. And he had brought up a suggestion, and somebody in the team shut him down. That effect was what he carried into the retrospective. Without my observation, without my ability to be able to see what was not said, that would have drawn the team back. I spoke to him. I gave the feedback to the person that was affected, the person who did what should not be done, and the team come back together. And today we are working together as a team, delivering results every sprint.
Awesome. Awesome answer. I like that last example because those are, when they ask you this kind of question, what are the 3 characteristics that make you different? They are looking for less obvious things that other people cannot see. They are looking for skills you have that are not common. And they are looking also for some of the things they have already listed in the job description, like communication. Because most people just say, I have good communication skills, but they will not give examples, what it means. The fact that you took an example and a story of somebody who used to be a very good member of the team, very engaged, communicator, and so all of a sudden they stopped. And because that would have endangered the project, because that person is a very good member of the team. So the fact that that was an example to show that you understand communication is two-way, and most of it is listening. Now you give the person context to really, now at the end of it, they say, okay, this guy is a good communicator. Because the mistake most people make is that, oh, I'm a good communicator, I'm a good team player. No, that is, you are not saying anything until you can contextualize, give examples, give analogies, then you're actually communicating. Now, again, the challenge remains. These people have not done these things. They have done it in other areas of their life, but they don't know that they have already done it. So we need to show them that, hey, you can take this experience here and you've done this thing, and take these guys, take James' answer or Julius' answer, and then insert it in this formula. I'm going to give them a template. So I'm going to say, for example, can you show an example that if you were not a good communicator, you wouldn't have been able to manage the situation? It doesn't have to be a Scrum project, but take a real life project and and pretend as if it's a Scrum project and communicate it that way. And at this particular point of the template, this is what you need to insert. At this other point, this is what you need to insert. At this other point, this is where you need to insert. So I give them that template where they have to like replace your stories with their own. Okay. And at the end of the training, I'm gonna give them some, like as we go through the training, I'm also gonna make them listen to this for them to understand the template, because without them listening to it live, it won't really like flow. So
understand it.
Yeah, throughout the training, I'm gonna stop and then play a part of the recording or a particular question for them to see how it was delivered by you or Jim. Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, awesome. So let's go here. So do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so very much for your time.
Yeah.
The first question I have is, as a retrospective of my interview, I would like to know, was there any particular question you had asked me that you would want me to clarify or to probably add some more information for clarity?
Okay, good question. Yeah. So yeah, I have one. So I understand that the product owner is the interface. It represents the client.
Yes.
And what if, have you ever had a situation where the product owner and the client are not communicating well, and so they keep coming back with requirements or stories that are not helping the team to move forward?
Right. Actually, I believe every organization tries to avoid this, because the problem I had is not exactly this. The problem I have is that I have one product owner that was working with 4 different teams. And as a result of that, his engagement level was low. So the problem wasn't that they weren't getting the right information or the requirement from the customer. The problem was that there was not enough time for them to sit with the team to ensure that the team has an understanding of what is required of them. So it reduces the productivity of the team. And sometimes, because of the limitation of the time they spend with the team, there is often gap between what the customer expects and what the team does. So during the review that happens every 2 weeks, there are instances where the team, the client says, no, that's not exactly what we were asking for. And as soon as we discovered this, one of the things I did with the management is to say, hey, this is an expectation that we meet with the customer through the product owner as soon as possible. However, we increase our overhead to have more product owners. And before I left that particular organization, the product owner in question has only 2 teams instead of 4. It isn't perfect, but of course, it was better than where we started from.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so just to go back to the way you asked the question, the way you asked the question is very important, because now it offers you an opportunity to catch up on any things that were gaps in the hiring manager's mind, which is good. So, and that's the same question that Julius asked, and that's a question that people should ask in an interview for clarity. You need to clarify, because if that stays in the person's mind, they may not have the opportunity for you to clarify things. Because think of it this way. The ideal way for an interview to be, for it to be advantageous to the applicant, is if the applicant control the process. Because if I control my presentation, I will know what to tell you when you want. But the fact that you are the person controlling, and I don't even know the next question you're going to ask, I have to always catch up and make sure that I give you the best of me. So what other questions do you have?
Yes, so 2 more questions, Mr. Sylvester. I'm quite enthusiastic about joining the team, but I would like to know, since you are the hiring manager, what is the what would you consider as the major challenge that the team is facing now that you would want me to start working on day one when I join the team?
Okay, again, great question. The major challenge we are facing right now is that my team has not is not well vested in the agile methodology. So we have a big stake here. We need somebody who has a lot of experience, and we need somebody who can assure us that they will be able to take this team to an agile level faster than we could imagine.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Like I did mention when I was talking about my top characteristics, what I consider as my top characteristics is actually the deep knowledge of Agile. As a result of that, you can be assured that that wouldn't be a problem. And secondly, I can actually say that I've helped a team to move from the forming stage to the performing stage in a space of 4 months. And I believe that out there, that is actually a landmark achievement, because on the average, it takes teams about a year for them to move from these phases to the other. All right. So I promise that I'm going to be delivering same when I join the organization.
Awesome. So did you say forming to performing?
Yeah. So it's
okay.
Forming,
awesome. I like that.
Yeah. It's forming. The stages are forming, storming, norming, and performing. And each of them takes average of actually 3 months.
3 months.
Okay. Yeah. Average of 3 months. But again, if you have receptive individuals that are so excited about Agile, they can actually cut short a lot of phases and move to performing ASAP.
So you said forming, storming,
norming
and performing. Okay.
Yes.
So storming is when they interact, they brainstorm.
Exactly. So
they come together. Norming is when they define rules.
No. Yeah, exactly. So for me, is they are just together now. They want to start working together, and you start telling them, "Oh no, in Agile there is no person who is the boss," and they'll be like, "Really? Are you crazy? I've been working for this organization for 50 years. You just came yesterday. You said we are the same." So there will be some storm, right? And then you step in and then you normalize stuff, right? Then we are now coming together with defining rules, expectations, and so on and so forth. And as soon as we do that, if that is sustained, then they go to performing stage. And if they are able to maintain that, that is when the company will start really, really enjoying the team.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now that second question was very important too, because when I asked that question of what are the biggest challenges you're facing, as a hiring manager, I wanted to see whether some of them pertain to what we are facing. In other words, I don't just ask that question because I like to ask it. It was the opportunity for, in the ideal world, is the candidate who was supposed to start the process and control it from start to finish. I say, okay, can you tell me the problems you are facing now? And when you tell me, I can give you an answer that satisfies that. But you see that when you were saying the challenges you face, you don't even know whether it's part of the challenges the hiring manager is facing. And so you have to absolutely ask that question at the end of the. And when I coach people, I'll even say, once they ask you that question, that what are the biggest challenges you faced, you have to first of all say, as a matter of fact, I've faced a lot of challenges. I don't know where to start, but I'm just gonna give you like 3 or 4. But would you mind me asking what challenges you're facing at the end of my answer, so that if there's anything I've faced in the past that matches that, it will fine for me.
Wow.
Else, I'll honestly tell you that I've not faced such a challenge.
Wow.
So it's
wow.
So
that's
exactly. So that at that particular point, you just like hit all of the challenges.
Yeah.
So that you don't forget, because you never know whether at the end of the interview they will even ask you that, do you have questions? There's a big risk that at the end they might not be satisfied with your previous answers and they just want to let you go and take the other candidates. So when they immediately ask you that question, what is the biggest challenge? You want to frame it like this. You want to say, oh, I have a lot of challenges that I face, but I'm just going to restrict myself to the big 4. Now, I don't know if the challenges I'm going to talk about is what you're facing, but that's not the problem. At the end of my answer to your question, I'll be glad if you can also tell me the challenges you have faced, and I'll go into my experience to see if I've handled that kind of challenge. And I'll be honest with you. If I've handled it, yes. If not, I'll be honest with you, tell you I've not handled it. So, when you get that agreement there, then boom, you say, okay, now let me tell you about the challenges I faced.
Wow. I never personally thought about that myself.
Yeah.
So thank you for adding that to my, my wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So what other questions do you have?
Yes. So the last question I have for you is, as my hiring manager, I'm curious. When I join the team, what can I do with the team that will make you sleep better at night?
Okay, awesome. I like the question because that is actually why they're hiring you in the first place.
Exactly.
So in other words, for them to sleep at night, they will tell you the number one thing that's in their mind. Yep. So they might go back if let's say they want to ask you, which is my team is new. I'm wondering how fast you can take them up to speed. If that is the number one thing that makes me not to sleep at night, I'll repeat that. Yep. And if something keeps on coming, you know that, okay, that's a key point and you want to take your time to nail it. Yeah. So again, not to make the process long, I would just say the same challenge I have is the fact that my team is new and I'm looking for somebody who's very experienced, somebody who has very good leadership skills, somebody who can really take them up to speed. So I wonder, like you said, I don't know if you said you did that in 4 months. Can you give me during those 4 months, what you did differently that most people will not do and why it took you such a short time? What are the specific things you did differently?
Sure. Thank you very much. The first thing is, from the experience I had from the most difficult challenge I faced, I started with why. So as soon as I had this team, I made sure they understood the reason why we are moving from waterfall to agile. I make sure they understand all the changes that are associated. We will start collecting some metrics. These metrics are basically for us to measure how we are doing, not for us to point fingers at one another. We had a team norm from day one that we all agreed to say, this is what we will accept as a team. This is what we will not accept as a team. Everyone respect one another on the team. So we literally move through forming phase to norming without necessarily being in the storming phase for too long. And when we had little healthy conflict within the team members were matured enough to sit one another down to understand what the problem is. It's only a few times that I had to step in. And I've discovered during my career that when people have misunderstanding, it's just because they are not seeing things from each other's perspective. So I sit them down to understand, what exactly do you want? What exactly do you want, and how can we find a compromise between one another? And eventually, as soon as we move to performing stage, we ensured stability within the team. I must say that one of the things I've experienced so far is when the team are performing, leadership have that tendency to say, oh, James, your team are now doing well. How about I pull out Sylvester to help the other team? I try to protect the unity of my team to ensure that all these good jobs we've been doing, building a relationship, because a team is more than just people coming together, sitting next to one another to work. No, we go out together for lunch. We have coffee together in the morning. We go for happy hours to celebrate our successes. And when we do not do well, we also sit together to say, what failed? And how can we get better? When we have done all this together and we reach performing stage within 3 months, we don't want to lose one another. So I make sure that as a Scrum Master, I protect that unity of my team as much as possible. And that was what I told you led to having the team productivity increase by 150% over a period of 3 years.
Okay, awesome. Awesome answer. So, I mean, that is it. So you just did it so well. So that will really help.
Yes, sir.
As to provide the data I need as illustration during my training with them starting Wednesday.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you so very
Yeah.
much for your
Thanks very
time.
much. Yeah, I'm gonna let you go.
Julius spoke so highly of you.
Mhm.
I am able to see that myself now, firsthand, right?
Yeah.
About your experience in the field. And again, I also took that personal lesson, which is when they ask for your greatest challenge, what I'm going to say might not be applicable to them. So I should actually create that as an opportunity for me to understand what their own problem is and be able to find a way by which I can speak around it if it is something I've done, or to hypothetically, I mean, what makes a great candidate is also that ability to come up with answers on the spot, right? Exactly. So even if they do mention to me something they are facing that I've not, I will be honest to say, no, I've not, but I could also speak hypothetically to say, and I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. So thank you so very much. I'm also going to be in the session all through the 3 sessions that is lined up. So also pick some of the great nuggets that you'll be sharing.
Yeah, so even though now he says it's 2 sessions, 3 hours instead of 2 hours. So we'll do when he said we'll do Wednesday and Friday, 3 hours.
Okay, all right. Yeah. It's not told me that, but again, I'm in line. I'm on board with that.
Okay,
Thanks,
man.
Again, Mr. Sylvester.
Yeah,
have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Have a great day. See you.
You too.